5 uncommon pieces of career and financial advice from the barbershop. This morning I was getting my haircut at the barbershop. The barbershop I go to is a small town, walk-in only, open, specific hours, specific days, and you just walk in. It closes for lunch every day for like an hour and a half. So it's like old school. Showed up today at 7:55 a.m. It opens at 8. The guy was already cutting hair, and there was 2 other people already sitting on the bench. So it's like old school, small town thing. But what was interesting is, I was listening to some of the conversations and the things that people are talking about, which in an old school barbershop like that, there's no TVs on the wall. There's like a radio playing in the background. So it's very interesting to listen. And so I just listened a lot. And as I was listening, I started hearing certain themes. And so this is going to be 5 uncommon pieces of career and financial advice from the barbershop. But actually, these are things that they deserve 0% of your attention. So as I was listening to the conversations, what I was hearing was these things that, as they were being talked about, I realized they're just a waste of your time. They have a lot to do with financial career type of stuff. And at the end of the day, if you give them your attention, you're really just burning your attention that you could be spending on other things that are more valuable. So let's jump in. Number 1, the first thing that deserves 0% of your attention is how other people spend money. Dude, just all the stories about people buying a certain type of house, certain type of car, spending their money. And when people are talking about that, they're being very critical. They're saying, oh, they shouldn't do this, they shouldn't do that. They shouldn't spend their money. That doesn't make sense, right? What they're doing is they're imposing their beliefs about what's right, what's wrong, what's a good use or bad use of money and all this. And all that stuff is coming from their internal context of what their life is like, what their world outlook is like, what their current situation is financially when it comes to income and future potential for wealth and all. There's so many things going into that. So when people talk about whether someone spending money, it's a good or bad thing, they're just imposing so much of their internal situation on other people. It's a very poor use of attention. So if you get into the thing of you find yourself talking about how someone else is spending money, just get out of that conversation. Not worth your time. And also it's more worth your time to investigate what's important to you and what your goals are. And the truth is there are no rules. You can have whatever goals you want. So I just stay out of that. Okay. So that's number 1. Number 2, this one's good. Practical solutions to work you will never learn the nuance of. So this is an interesting one because what the guy was talking about is he was talking about road construction, and he was talking about how they were going to construct the road. And basically he was saying they shouldn't do it that way. They should do it another way. And it is pretty clear this guy probably doesn't work for any type of engineering firm. He doesn't work for any type of company that would ever influence road infrastructure. And the point here is, when you start talking about complaining about how other people do their work, you're creating an ego and pride in your work that will help you stay unchecked. So what you're saying is well, I'm so good, I wouldn't make a mistake like that. What it ends up doing is you will be less introspective about the work that you do. You'll be less willing to actually critique the work you do and get better at your skills, which can increase your potential for income and progress in the future. So it's not directly a money talk, but it's an attitude. If you're complaining about how other people do stuff and what they do, you're more likely to look up at yourself more because you're talking about them down here and you're elevating yourself here. So that type of conversation where it's you're saying, hey, this person should have done, they did it this way, they should have done it that way. You're putting yourself here and then that person there. That's a type of mindset that's not coachable. It's not teachable. So don't get engaged in those conversations. All right. Number 3, how people do a job. Okay. So there is a caveat to this one, and that is if you work in a company or you do a certain type of job and you are responsible for the training and development of somebody else. Other than that, it almost never profits you to ever talk about how someone is doing their job. So this one was interesting because there was a guy on the bench while I was getting my hair cut, and he was talking about another barber who also had another profession. And he was just talking about how this barber would talk about how he was busy all day, but the guy sitting on the bench would drive by this other barber's barbershop and just see him the barber sitting in the car just chilling. And so he was basically rolling his eyes at the person, but it doesn't profit you to talk about how someone else does their work, right? The marketplace rewards good work at the end of the day, long term, getting results. And so it just doesn't profit you. And it's the same as like point number 2 about, if you're not going to learn the nuance of something and you want to impose your practical solutions, the same thing here. Whenever you're complaining about someone doing their work, what you're basically saying is like, well, if I was doing it, I would be up here and they're down here, right? And that just, it's not a good position, a mental position to take if you're going to be the type of person who wants to grow and develop in your career and increase your earning potential and make good decisions. That person's very coachable, very teachable, very willing to learn what's best and learn principles that will lead to success. So if you're going to talk about how other people do their work in a complaining way, not a good use of your time, all right? So here's number 4. This one's good. Condemning the pay or structure for another job. So there's an Amazon place near me, all right? And while I was getting my hair cut, well, he was in there before, but like he started talking while I was getting my hair cut. This guy was talking about, Amazon drivers, and that's what they were talking about another barber, how he did his job, but they were also talking about Amazon drivers, how they do their job, saying like, well, they should do this, or I get a message saying, I don't know where to leave this package. And they're just basically saying like, these people should be able to figure it out. They're complaining about how the job is done. But this one specifically, what they were talking about, they're like, man, these people get paid this with 401k and all this. Like, well, of course they wouldn't go work anywhere else, but like, it's not even that hard of a job. Like, what they're saying is like, hey, this person doesn't deserve that type of pay. Well, here's the thing. They are part of an entity that the entire world shops on more than any other online entity. So like, you can say that, but like, at the end of the day, like, you're really just complaining about your situation. You're probably implying that, well, they get paid this, like I should get paid more for what I do. Never a good situation when you feel like the victim. It's never good to feel like you're the victim of circumstance. You're the victim of everything. You're going to have a very hard time when it comes to making progress, because whenever you're the victim, you're also a passive entity. So you're just waiting for something to happen to you. The world doesn't really work well for someone who's a victim, okay? It's better to be like proactive in what you're doing. Don't worry about how other people get paid and what their structure is. Worry about where you're going, like the internal drivers, the focus for you, where you're trying to go, and start getting really dialed in on that direction. That's going to be way more worth your time than ever talking about someone else's pay or structure and complaining about what it's like. Because again, you're most likely making an internal comparison about how your situation is not as good as that person's. That's a comparison. Number 1, you're taking away your daily joy for today, but you're also taking away your decision to be proactive and forward focused, not being reactive. Okay. And the last one, oh man, this is good. Reveling in the way things used to be. So like I told you, I live in a small town. So like these people, everyone in there, I was the youngest person by probably like 20 years or so. Everybody was like middle-aged or old. And they're just talking about the good old days, man. They were talking about, what things used to be like when things were smaller, there were less people. You can make handshake agreements. There was no technology, right? They're reveling in all that stuff. And like, at the end of the day, the person who is going to make the most significant improvement in career is the one who adapts. So like, for example, I have a guy that he does data stuff and he does code, and now he's done it for a long time. And now he's dealing with, he has someone that works for him who made this really cool piece of code, but he used ChatGPT, which is AI. And like he said, I had an issue with it because I was like, man, this thing did a really good job, but I've spent all these years learning how to do it. Well, the big piece of this, though, is my friend, he has a skill of observing bigger things that AI can't do. He has the ability to actually understand the interrelationship of the pieces, the interaction with the people involved in the pieces, all of that stuff. That's a greater skill than what ChatGPT can do, at least right now. And so, like, he has the opportunity to either, start learning how to apply it and be that person. That person's actually more valuable, right? But if you're just focused on the good old days and you don't like adapt and you don't just accept certain things that like they're not worth your time and they're not in your control, you're going to really struggle. And so the reason this one's important from a financial career standpoint is that every single thing is evolving. Everything is growing and developing in a way that is going to, at some point, require some type of change to advance. Okay. And the way that works is other people who adopt that thing faster or sooner, even if they don't have like the experience or the buy-in, or they haven't cut their teeth, or they haven't gone through the same steps you have, that doesn't matter. What matters is, can you get the results with what is given to you and what's available to you? So if you don't adapt and evolve, you just stay stuck in the past. So like, don't get stuck reveling in the way things used to be. Just accept that certain things are moving forward, and just be the type of person, again, who's coachable, teachable, willing to learn those things and make progress. So those are 5 uncommon pieces of career and financial advice from the barbershop. Number 1, don't worry about how other people spend money. Don't get in those conversations and thought patterns. Don't talk about practical solutions to work you will never learn the nuance of. Don't talk about how other people do a job. Don't condemn pay or structure for another job. And then don't revel in the good old days. So appreciate it, guys. Again, that was just a fun one. I just want to get that out there because, man, it's fresh. And I was there and I was like, this right here, what I'm listening to, like, these are the things that if you avoid and you don't pay attention to, you will have phenomenal career and financial success, not because of the career you choose or the financial pathway you choose. There's some principles there, but really because of the type of person you are. So if you get rid of these things out of your character, you'll be in a much better place. So appreciate you guys. I'll see you guys later.